countdown to Election Day continues. Welcome back to Local Decision 2024. I'm Eric Nelson, and joining us in the North Metro TV studios is Russ Koski, who is running for re-election on the Centerville City Council. Russ, good to see you.
Thank you.
We'll start off with asking you to tell the viewers about yourself and why you want to get back on the council again.
Yeah, well, I've been in Centerville now as a resident 30 plus years, and it's gone really fast, but I've done 7 years on council now, finishing up my 8th. I did 5.5 years on planning and zoning, and I enjoy doing it. And I feel like I'm trying to make a contribution. I feel like I am making a contribution, and I have no personal interests, or I'm not developing anything. I just like to help, and I feel sitting on the council is a way to contribute, give back a little bit, and to help out where I can.
So being on the council for 7 years, what kind of a perspective do you now have of local government and specifically Centerville?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's a lot different. After being in there for a year or two, you realize how much different. Even when I was on planning and zoning, I kind of felt like I would have had an idea how council would work, but it's definitely different. And it really, there's so much that goes into making decisions. It's amazing to me because when you're on the outside looking in, you don't know all of what's going on in the background. You don't have all the details and all the information about developers or about city ordinance or state laws or what the Rice Creek Watershed District needs or wants. And you start digging into that and peeling back that onion a little bit, and it's like, wow, there's a lot that goes into it. And it has been, if nothing else, the whole experience on council has been very educational.
From 34,000 feet, for somebody like myself not on city council, it seems to be that the details matter, that you really have to dig down before something passes or doesn't pass. Am I right?
Oh, for sure. And the details can be many, and there's so many things that go into it, right? So you have ordinances, state laws, and different government entities that may have input on a project. But then you also you got to look at what your citizens are looking for, what your goals are for your city, and what do the residents want, because that's who I work for. Mm-hmm. They put me in there and asked me to be in there and sit in that chair to represent, and that's what I try to do. And you're not always going to get it right, because not everybody always agrees on everything, and so you got to do your best looking at those details to come up with the best decision that you can. And I think where it's really important is to have resident input, right? And to hear from the residents and what they're thinking, how they're feeling, what they'd like to see. That is huge in how I go about making decisions too.
So what's going well right now in Centerville?
Oh, I think we have a lot of things that are going well. I think in the last handful of years, we brought in some new commercial tax base. So development, we had been struggling for quite a while to bring in some of that commercial and tax base, and not just tax base, but businesses that benefit our community, and businesses that bring something that the residents can use or need, and those types of things. The businesses also help, spread out the tax responsibility. The cost to run the city is now, by bringing businesses in, they help share that cost to running the city. That's gone really well. We've had issues with, I wouldn't call issues, but I think even on a state level, with recruiting law enforcement. Public safety is huge, right? So getting firefighters and law enforcement and recruiting and retaining, that has been something I'm very proud to be a part of. We have great law enforcement. Our Centennial Fire District is awesome, just awesome. And we've, the cost of running public safety now, it's about half of our budget. So when I look at that and the cost of police cars and fire trucks 3-4 years ago were $300,000-$400,000. they're 7, 8, 900,000 now. You know, and so you have to look at that and what we've done with public safety, with particularly in fire, because I've been on the fire steering committee for 6 years now. If we've partnered up with Spring Lake Park, Blaine, and Mounds View, SBM, and we are sharing training costs. We're going to be looking at sharing equipment costs. It doesn't make sense to have 2 ladder trucks within 2 miles of each other. It just doesn't at $1.6 million each or whatever it is. So I'm very proud of what we've done there with our public safety, and we're going to continue, and I want to continue to grow that and keep that going in the right direction.
What could be better in Centerville? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's always room for improvement, right? I think when we look at development, we want to make sure we're bringing in the right development, whether it's commercial and businesses or residential development. We want to make sure, I think, that we have development in businesses and whatnot that fit our community. And so we need to continue to look at that. I think we need to improve our parks. Our parks and trail systems are always in need of maintenance and improvement. It's amazing to me the cost. We're just looking at that right now with park equipment and the cost of replacing equipment in the parks for the kids. Yeah. But you know what? Got to be safe. You got to have good stuff, accessible park equipment. So I think we can't sit still. Yeah. You know, we got to continue to improve, grow, maintain. You know, and I think looking at some of the things that we're doing there, we're going to keep moving forward with that.
High-density housing projects, those can be hot-button issues.
Yeah.
From the recent apartment proposal near the lake to Block 7 apartments. How should Centerville deal with this kind of stuff?
You know, it's always a tough one, right? And I am certainly, you know, diversity in housing is something that every community needs. But I think what's important when we look at development is that we look at what fits our city. So, you know, apartments are fine, I think, in the right location, the right place, and whatnot. But I have concerns when they're looking for taxpayer support on a residential or an apartment project. I have a difficult time asking neighbors or parents that are having a tough time making it to help support an apartment project with their tax dollars. I grew up in a single-parent home, and I think back, my mom worked 2 jobs to try to keep 3 kids going, and it was tough. And I look at that, and I see single parents and say that, you know, you need to help as a single parent when you're trying to use all your resources to raise your children, and now we're going to ask you to help support this apartment complex. I have a tough time with that, but yeah, as far as apartments, right place, right time or whatever, yeah, I think we need to look at everything. I don't think anything needs to be, hey, because it's an apartment, you eliminate it. I don't believe in that at all.
So what's your approach to handling controversial and complicated topics?
I think the big thing is, for me, is to get folks involved, you know. And I have, on occasion, I have gone out and visited with neighbors in their neighborhood. Back in April, I spent an hour and a half in a neighborhood with concerns about this apartment project, and an hour and a half on a Sunday afternoon to hear and share information, to listen to what folks had to say and to share information. And it's very beneficial to me, but education and communication is huge, right? And I think when we get the opportunity to explain why a project or more details behind the scenes that folks don't always know, that is key in getting input and share what we know as a council or what I know as a council member, and to listen to what they have to say. You know, you put all that together and you have conversations and you work it out. But you have to talk, you have to communicate. And I am a big believer in town hall type meetings or open houses. I have been pushing for that for a lot of years. And we did one here this past spring and it worked great. So,
are you out door knocking then to try to get back on the council?
I keep pretty busy for my employer, so and I have a mother that's in a care facility now, so I try to spend as much time up north with her. But I will be. I won't get the time into it that I would like, but I'm going to go out and give it a shot. But folks are always welcome to call me, email me, and I try to get back to everybody. It's tough sometimes, but I try.
What about downtown Centerville? I know there's Main Street Market in the summer. That seems to be very successful. And then you have the water ski show, which always plays to rave reviews. Is enough being done to create that core, that downtown, or do you need to do more in Centerville?
Well, I think everything kind of has to take on a life of its own, and it's got to grow, and it takes time. So the people who are doing our downtown marketplace, fantastic. Mm-hmm. Music in the park, fantastic. We got people that are volunteering, and God bless them, and thank them so much for what they're doing, because otherwise without them, none of this happens. Our city parade, our city festival, all that stuff is great, but those are foundations. So in the water ski show, those folks are great. But those are starting points, and we need to grow. We need to maintain that. We need to grow and have that be kind of the catalyst of it all, right? So the more we can grow and add on, and we got a lot of development going on around us. We need to include those folks, welcome those folks into our events and activities. And you know what? It's going to take on a life of its own too. And we need to keep. Volunteers are great, so people want to volunteer. Please look into volunteering and contributing to the community, because that helps so much.
The budget, I mean, it's always there. What are your priorities for the budget?
Yeah, and the budget's a tough one. It's always tough. I think I'm very proud of what we've done as a council the last few years, and trying to keep expenditures in line. And I think if we're going to spend money, I think we need to make sure we're getting something in return. We need to get value back for what we're spending. So, but with the costs going up, as they are, for like I said, for public safety, that's huge. But we need to add additional contributors, right? So the more commercial business we bring in, the right kind of residential housing, we're going to have more contributors putting into that pot to help to get the city running, because we need so much money to run the city, and that's just the way it is, and that cost is not going down. But I think we need to be fiscally responsible, and when we do spend money on something, we need to make sure we get value out of it.
What are your favorite things to do in the city of Centerville?
Oh, I'll tell you, I wish I could spend more time outside. Sometimes it's nice just where I can be home and putzing in the garage or doing something in the yard. But otherwise, I love when we got the parade going, or the city festival going on. I volunteered for the parade, I think, about the last 17 years. Love that when people get together. I love doing those things. We got great trails. So whatever I can do to get out and about, and I just like chatting with people too, right? So.
If you get back on the council, are there one or two things you'd like to focus on?
Yeah, I want to continue with our community engagement, and how do we get folks into our downtown, our town hall meetings? And because when I brought it up in the past, I get this kind of feedback, well, you're not going to get people to come. Well, I don't know. We can sure try. And I think I want to continue that community engagement and make sure they realize that we have an open forum, and the door is always open. And that in our future development's key, taking care of our parks, and again, the budget's a big one too, to keep that solid.
All right, you've got the floor for a little bit longer here. Tell the viewers why they should vote for you.
Well, a lot of folks have voted for me in the past, and I think that's fantastic. I don't know that there's anything more humbling than that, to have a bunch of folks I don't know check a box for me. And that means a lot to me. And I appreciate that, and I want to say thank you to everyone. I work for the people, and I look at sitting in that chair. I'm not overly comfortable being here in the spotlight here on the news, or being in the newspaper, and that's not really my cup of tea. I just want to do what I can to contribute and give back to the community, and that's what I want to do. So if they're gracious enough and to check that box for me one more time, I will do the best that I can to represent all of our residents, and I mean all of them.
Russ, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that.
All right, he's Russ Koski, running for City Council in Centerville. This is Local Decision 2024.